evening, church family, and welcome to the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living for our Wednesday night midweek Oasis service. My name is Paul, and I'll be your host tonight. It's Wednesday, September 22nd, and rumor has it, it is the fall equinox, and we're going to hear a lot about that tonight. So Bonnie was talking about that during the meditation, and what I didn't realize was that the fall equinox means it's the same amount of time, sunlight and day, night light, right? Is that right, Bonnie?
Yes, it's equal day, equal night.
Excellent.
12 hours of day, 12 hours of night. Yes, equinox, balance.
Thank you. I'm all for equality. So there, there we go. Now, if I could get my equal hair growth to come in, then you guys would be true masters. So, but aside from that, all joking aside, welcome to our Wednesday night. Wednesday night is known as the Oasis, and that's because it's our opportunity to get together between Sundays to kind of connect and stay spiritually aware, kind of a little reverent time, but not so reverent on Wednesday nights during the midweek because it's hump day, right? And it's hump equinox time. So everything is all equal tonight. So with that in mind, the most important thing we want you to know about tonight's service is that it's presented in a satsang style, which means we have a gifted speaker speak for about 20 minutes on a subject and then open it up for discussion. But bottom line, Reverend Jerry wants us to have an intimate, informal, and rich experience on Wednesday night. And that's what we intend to bring to you tonight. Let me remind you of the annual theme, Timeless Wisdom, Evolutionary Vision. And our monthly theme is Reaching Higher. If you're joining us for the first time tonight, we invite you to visit the homepage that you came in on and look in the lower left-hand corner, and you can submit your email address so you can get our weekly newsletter, The Village News. It'll tell you what's coming up in the week and have all the Zoom links and all the connection information you need. And make sure you visit our events page on the website as well, where all of our information is about upcoming activities. Please know that if you're not already muted your camera and your microphone, our Zoom team will do that for you. So it's best if you could do that now because that improves the quality of tonight's transmission. And we have lots of good announcements about things coming up in the next week at the end of the program tonight. So stay tuned for that information. So again, we welcome you and we're ready to start. And there's only one way to start at the Oakland Center, and that's with prayer. So I bring forward Reverend Sally, who's with us tonight, and ask that she open us up in prayer. Reverend Sally.
Thank you, Paul, and welcome everyone. What a glorious evening to be here together in community. So I invite you to close your eyes, allow your body to relax into this moment of prayer. As I allow the breath of life to fill my lungs and to be released, I am bringing my body into balance, the inner and the outer, the up, the down, the back, the forth, the dark and the light. I'm recognizing that there is one power, one presence, one reality taking place, being itself in, through, and as everything, the light and the dark, and all shades in between. And I know that this one life is my life. It is the life of each and every beloved on this call and beyond. And how good it is to know this, to know that we are one, both light and dark. We are the both and. And so I bless our time this evening. I bless our time of community. I bless Constance Chapman as she speaks the word this evening, sharing her experiences of the light and the dark, helping us to see, helping us to know, helping us to experience this glorious thing called life. And I bless our tech team that's supporting this process in the virtual realm. And I bless our beloveds who are having health challenges, including Lita de Seville, knowing that she is receiving the support, the love, the attention that she needs, and that all is well in the divine. And so I give thanks for this and the more. I know that our heart's desires are already received and done in spirit. And so, like the tree releasing the leaf in the autumn, I release this prayer, knowing it's done. And please join me together in sealing this prayer by saying, and so it is.
And
Back
so
to
it
you,
is.
Paul.
Thank you, Reverend Sally. I wanted just to take a minute and recognize that our acting senior minister is here with us tonight. We're so glad to have you, Reverend Jerry. We love you. We want to say hello to you special. So we're glad you're with us this evening. Going forward, we have a wonderful speaker tonight. We all know her. This place does not function without her. She's the center of our Oakland Center's universe. Practitioner Constance Chapman, and she also serves as our administrative coordinator. And tonight she's going to speak and Still I Rise. It's also was her birthday yesterday, and if you were part of the social time at the beginning of the program, we got to sing to her in Zoom, but at least I'm saying it solo right now, so it rings true. So, and especially a happy birthday to you, Constance. So with that in mind, please welcome Constance Chapman. Constance.
Well, good evening, everybody. Before we start, I have a little disclaimer, or I could just say it's part of the program, but it really is a disclaimer, is that on this particular computer, a number of years ago, I set up an app that's a mindfulness app that comes on every 15 minutes, and a gong rings 3 times so we can stop and I can stop and breathe. Well, I had turned it off, and when Chrome decided to upgrade and turn everything pink, it turned it back on, and I cannot figure out how to turn it off. So in about another 5 minutes, we're going to hear it come on. So what we'll do is we will all just stop and breathe. Use it as a mindfulness practice, and then we'll go right back into the program. So just so you don't go, what is that? That's what it is. The universe wants us to do that tonight. So I want to start by telling you that Helen Keller lived by the motto that life is a great adventure or nothing at all. And I wasn't thinking of a great adventure when I signed up to go whitewater rafting last weekend. I considered it a gift to myself, a time to get away, to be by the water and the trees, and a time to honor Reverend Jeff. And as it turns out, this was the perfect activity for me to do prior to doing a talk call and Still I Rise. It was a grand adventure, and it was a spiritual journey of trusting and rising to the occasion, or not. And you'll hear about the times when I did not rise, at least not immediately. So here's what I learned about spiritual living from river rafting. 1, you need to know who's driving the boat. 2, you need to know who you're crewing with, who are the other people in the boat with you. And you need to have ways of paddling through the rapids. So first, let's talk about crewmates. We all have crewmates. We all have passengers who live inside of us. Some are complainers and critics. Some are cheerleaders and guides. Some we know about, and some lurk in our subconscious and we're not so clear about who they are. But the more we know who is in the boat with us, the better our journey. In our raft, we had a team. Maybe because of our ages, there may have been one person under the age of 60, but I don't even know about that. Or maybe because of our beliefs, no one questioned our young guide, and she was young. When she told us to paddle, we did. When she taught us to paddle in unison, we did. When she told us to put our backs into the paddle, we did. When she told us to stop, we did. The morning was fairly easy and calm. As you can see, Barbara, if you would slide that and share that first slide right now. We had time to hang out and hang our feet out of the raft and smile for the camera and to practice being a team. So the woman in the red helmet is Lisa, and the woman next to her is Linda with a Y. Linda with an I is behind the Linda with a Y. I'm behind the red hat, and Larry Wyman is behind me, and our guide Kiki is in the very back. So these names will become important in a minute. So this part of the journey was really similar to those times in our life when everything's going smoothly, everyone is being kind and loving, everyone's getting along, and you just can feel the, no, not that one yet, Barbara. You can take it down. And you can just feel the God is good vibe. So you can stop. Yeah, thank you. So there was a moment when we were tested. Early before we got into the heavy whitewater rafting, Kiki, who was our young guide, said that at some time she was going to tell, let's breathe. So what she said is that there would be a time when she would tell Lisa to paddle forward and Linda with a Y to paddle backwards. So as you saw from that picture, they were both in the front of the boat. So that instruction came on the second half of the trip as we were entering a class 3 rapids. Well, we didn't do it right. Lisa was paddling furiously forward, and Linda with a Y was as well. I was just sitting there. I'm not sure what the other two was doing as I couldn't see. Now, we didn't flip, but we did flop. And it was probably because of the skill of our guide, but we flopped off a couple of rock walls on either side of the river. So after we were back in smooth water, we debriefed. Linda with a Y shared that she was slightly hard of hearing, and with the sound of the water, she hadn't heard the instruction. So for the rest of the trip, Linda with an I, who was behind the Linda with a Y, shouted the instruction to make sure she heard. When Kiki had talked about this early in the trip, I thought it only applied to Lisa and Linda, not to the crew behind them. So instead of blaming, we used this miscommunication to strengthen the team. So here's some questions that we'll come back to, but I'm just going to put them out for right now. What do you do when your inner team, your inner crew miscommunicates? When you forget to listen to your intuition, or when your inner critic outshouts your inner cheerleader? Is this a growth opportunity or an opportunity for an inner fight? What resources do you draw on? So second is the importance of paddling. So as I mentioned, I was in a raft with 4 others from Oakland Center and our guide. Before we headed into the river, our guide, who was a very young 20-something woman, told us, as I mentioned, on how to sit in the boat, how to secure ourselves in the boat, and how and when to paddle. We rafted 16 miles and spent about 6 hours on the river going through level 1, 2, and 3 rapids. At one point, I got very curious and I asked Kiki why we paddled when we did. She explained that sometimes we need momentum, not only if the river flow was slow, and also because in the rapids, the waves are actually coming back towards the boat. So we need the momentum to get over, up and over, to rise. That takes effort, and it takes being in sync with each other, with the guide, and with the water. Having that information certainly helped me work as a team, and from what I talked to other people, it helped others as well. So we really understood the importance of what Kiki was telling us to do. So after we had stopped for lunch, we went through rapids with names like Chili Bar Hole, Barking Dog, and Satin Cesspool. So when Kiki said paddle, we all had to dig in to make sure we went over the waves and didn't get submerged by them. So Barbara, will you show that second slide now? So you can see the two paddles that are in sync with each other. So it wasn't just paddling, it was paddling in sync that was important. So you can take it down now. When we go through times when we're challenged and life is way too full of FGOs, not NGOs, FGOs. Do you know what that is? Or growth opportunities with the word in front. This is a pain that can push us to greater heights. Spiritually speaking, when I'm going through the rapids of life, I need to find momentum to keep going forward. So when you find yourself in the rapids of life, what do you do to keep going forward? Well, we have spiritual practices, prayer, meditation, visioning, practitioner sessions that we can use. And I know that we all use others too, like Netflix, eating, and other distractions. Not that those are bad, but those are some of the things we do. But when the waves are the strongest, I need to paddle faster and harder. And that's a time when it's easiest to let the practices fall away. We get too busy, too stressed, too depressed, too upset. So I want you to think about what you do when things get really tough. So the third, and in my mind, the most important, is who's guiding the raft. My practitioner used to say to me a lot that it isn't what I'm doing, it's where I'm coming from that's important. So when we first got assigned Kiki as our guide, I was skeptical. She looked so very young. After she told us about herself, she explained that she'd been raised on the river, that both of her parents had been river guides, and that her first rafting trip on the rapids was when she was age 4. So after I understood a little bit about that, I relaxed. Even at such a young age, she had experience. She was also very level-headed. And that energy impacted the rest of us in the boat when we went through the level 3 rapids, so that we remained calm and did our jobs. Even when we didn't get upset. We just figured out what we'd done wrong. So the question I want you to think about is your boat being guided by fear or faith, and how do you know? Because sometimes we're clear and sometimes we're not. So we all like to think we come from a place of love and faith. Yet at times we all come from a place of fear. I was raised to be very stoic, not show my emotions, just keep putting one foot in front of the other, and certainly don't ask for help. This meant I didn't allow myself to feel the fear, so I could think it wasn't there. So I didn't know. I didn't know when I was being guided by fear. So during the trip down the river, most of the time I was in a place of faith. Not only do I feel comfortable in the water, I had canoed whitewater before, so I knew something about reading a river, and I could see that our guide was really good. But when we docked, it was a different story. I hadn't thought about the ending, and a lot of us never think about endings until they're on us. Although I did know that we'd have to take a bus back to camp. Even though for 16 miles we'd had heels on both sides of us, it never occurred to me, and Barbara, you can bring up the third slide now, that when I got to the bus, I'd have to climb a hill. And yet I was feeling like the guy who's draped over the log. That's exactly how I felt. I didn't understand how much energy it had taken to stay upright in that boat. And I just felt like I was so bedraggled and tired. I didn't know if I could make it up that hill. Not only that, I was told I had to carry all my equipment to the bus. I wasn't sure I could even begin the journey as the bank was slippery clay. My boat shoes were wet and my legs were not at all wanting to take orders. I tried a few times and I just started to slide back. So finally I had to walk along a bit and find a place where it was a little bit flatter so I could actually get up over that first hump and start the trip up the hill. When I finally got to the bus, next slide please, a young man was standing at the door of the bus with masks in his hand. I looked at the pen. This is exactly how I was feeling by the time I got to the bus. I was not a happy camper, and I was bedraggled, I was tired. And I asked him, I looked at him, he had a bunch of masks, and I realized I had to wear a mask on that bus. I had a paddle in one hand and a water bottle in the other. And I had no idea how I was going to put a mask on. My brain was too tired to figure out, and I didn't even care to try. So Barbara, that can come down now. So I asked him, I turned to him and I said, what am I supposed to do with this paddle? He answered, carry it with you. At that point, I was so tired, all my filters were gone. And I replied, are you bleeping kidding me? And I did not use the word bleep. As soon as I heard the words come out of my mouth, I asked myself out loud, did I say that? He just took my paddle and handed me a mask. So there are three things about this story that I think are important spiritually. First, when we've been through an intense experience, be it pleasurable like the rafting, or not so pleasurable like a stressful work, deadlines, or caretaking a loved one, when we're in it, we just keep doing what needs to get done. When it's over, we may find ourselves exhausted or lethargic, or fill in the blank with the way you react when you come out of something really intense like that. And what I understood, even though I was very tired, was that self-compassion was really important. So I didn't need to beat myself up for not being able to carry that paddle on. Second, when I went to my default being stoic, I wasn't really aware of what was happening. And what it took kindness and compassion and community to bring me out of it. So when I got on the bus, it was almost all full. There was an empty seat and I sat down, just so happened, next to Janine Perry. She took one look at me and said, let's get you out of that gear. And she started proceeding to unbuckle my life vest. She unbuckled my helmet, and she took them. She helped me physically get them off, and she held them all the way back to the camp. So when we got back to camp, I just can't tell you how grateful I was that she did that. But when we got back to camp, I had to walk, and it was a downhill, thank goodness. I had to walk back to my tent. And I had on these boat shoes. I was wet. I was droopy. In fact, my pants were very droopy. and it was a gravel road, so it was precarious because I could feel the rocks. And I was still in that stoic, and I just kept going one foot after another foot after another foot. I got to my tent, I unzipped it. I was so tired, I couldn't even get my foot over the 2-inch piece of material on the tent, and I tripped and I fell. So then I was on the floor. It was like I was just there like, I don't know what else. But I finally got myself up so I could get out of the wet clothes, lay on my bed, and after about 15 minutes, I was able to get some clothes on. Finally, I went outside, and it was getting close to dinner, and I was thinking, I can't do it. I can't get up that hill. I don't want to put myself trying to get up that hill to get to dinner. I have a muffin in here. I'll just eat that. So Teresa Gardner was there, and she asked me if I was going to dinner. When I told her I was too tired, she says, give me your car keys. So she walked up the hill, got my car, drove down, drove me to the dining hall. Third, that's important, is that I had temporarily forgotten I wasn't the only driver of my own boat. That when I went into that stoic place, I went into that place of I have to do it all by myself. There wasn't any other, and I forgot to call on the true driver of my boat. I forgot that God's my guide and my source. So I thought I had to do it all alone. The man at the bus, Janine and Teresa, helped me remember who I am and that God is always guiding me, that I co-create my life and my world. So today is the fall equinox, as Paul has said. This is one of 2 times in the year when the light and the dark are equal. It's a time to reflect and a time to look at how balance is showing up in our life. My rafting journey was filled with many emotions, both of exhilaration, of exhaustion, of irritation, and of grief, because we did a circle for Jeff that night. Physically, the trip was of breathe. So physically, the trip was had many ups and downs, both in the water and on the hills, getting to and from the dining halls and the bathrooms. And yet, because of this incredible philosophy we have, and because of all the spiritual practice that I've done over the years, I was able to find my balance again fairly quickly. And yesterday, which was my birthday, I went to the spa for a massage and then had dinner with friends, and that just brought me right back into balance. So let's talk about how you find balance when your life is full of level 2 and 3 rapids, when you've forgotten who you are. So I'm going to open it up now, but what do you do when your inner team, your inner crew miscommunicates, when you forget to listen to your intuition, or when your inner critic outshouts your inner cheerleader? Do you take it as a growth opportunity or an opportunity to beat yourself up? What resources do you draw on? And when you find yourself in the rapids of life, what do you do to keep moving forward? And finally, is your boat being guided by fear or faith? And how do you know? So I'd like to open it up now and have people share. We can go into gallery view and if we want. So Sherry, are you going to share?
Oh, I will. I was just coming.
Yeah, let's get everybody to turn on your cameras and your microphone. And if you want to share, please raise your hand like so, and Peggy will recognize you, or Constance, or you can use the participant screen, the reaction screen at the bottom to raise your hand as well. Okay, so
So I will raise mine. Since
Okay.
I'm here. Thank you, Constance. I loved the breathing, the stopping in the middle. It was just fabulous. It was so perfect. And your questions and your story and your relating, there's so many of them. I wrote them down. I want to actually meditate and think about them because there's a lot there. I do want to say that you brought back a memory for me on the American River with that exact group of people who are the American, I guess they were the American boating thing or whatever. When my son was 10, we took him on this exact thing that you went on, and on Satan's cesspool that you mentioned, that is an incredible thing. He fell out of the boat in that Satan's cesspool thing. And I simply threw my paddle down and stopped paddling, and talk about the group taking over. They took it over and started paddling to balance the one that, because I was holding on to him with both arms, not letting go of him through the entire Satan's cesspool. So, so he got back into the boat at the end of it, terrified. And then they put him on the boat that goes along with the food and everything else, or whatever. I don't know if they still do that, but they kept him on that. He wanted out of that boat, as you can imagine. And it actually was one of the driving forces, terrors of his life. And he finally just went back on the American River and went through Satan's cesspool again. I got rid of it, dealt with it. So I guess that's like facing your fear and moving forward and trusting that you're actually going to come out alive, although he was 30 years old later when he did it. But yeah, I'm not going to talk any more about that except to say I do all of that, the light and the dark. I'm just coming to terms with the fact that I am both. I was in a class last night and I wanted to be the light, and I turned out to be not that. And I was really upset about it. And now tonight we talk about we're both the light and the dark. And so honoring both sides, my goal is to be willing to be a whole human being. And when I'm in those rapids that you talk about, to let God drive the boat and to remember that and to get back to that as quickly as I can. So thank you so much. I loved every part of what you had to say. Thank you.
So I think Barbara had her hand up next, and then Bonnie.
I just want to thank you, Constance. That was such a sweet story. I was very moved by it and really felt like reaching out and helping little Constance as you're struggling up that hill. I had so much empathy and compassion. I was like, oh, poor Constance. But it's such a learning to not have to do it all yourself, because that's very much my programming. I come from a family who is very rewarded, kind of toughness and doing it yourself and not having vulnerabilities or needs, kind of a tough guy thing. And, you're praised if you could do it without, complaining and just not needing any help. But gosh, that really limits you so much. And I'm so glad you did get some help. Thank you, Janine. And I just have to say, it's not just help from other people, but when you do that, you're closed off from spirit, from source, from opening up to divine help and guidance. And it's just such a powerful message. So thank you very much for sharing that. I really was moved by it.
Well, I want to say that there would have been a time in my life when I wouldn't have allowed Janine to help me. So I think that that one of the things about this philosophy and about all the the growth work that we do here is that even in those hard times when we have closed off, we're not closed off like we were when we were younger. So I was allowed to and I was allowed, I did allow the guidance to help. Though I couldn't have told you that was what was going on.
I was very impressed that you allowed that in too. And I do have to say, that I did do whitewater rafting back in Pennsylvania. It was a class 5 rapids back when I was in my 20s, and the boat tipped completely over. And I don't think I asked for any help back then, but I sure would today.
Yeah.
You're screaming.
So Bonnie, you had your hand up. You have your
Yes.
hand up.
Yes, I did. Constance, thank you for sharing that, deeply moving and personal experience. Is really touched by it. I have terrifying fears of whitewater rafting, so hats off to you and kudos. But in answer to your question about what you do when you're going through those tough times, and everything that I feel like I've touched is just not going the way I would like for it to go. And yes, pray, meditate, write treatments, just be in the moment of the divine. But what really works for me, like instantaneous, is music. Music can shift my level of consciousness just in an instant, And I feel like that music came from God. That music came from the divine Holy Spirit. So that is my personal second or moments of communing with the divine through music. And it just lifts my heart. Sometimes one song will lift my spirit. Sometimes I have to have a whole half hour or an hour. But music for me, music does it for me. And that's just something that I feel for me is so simple, so simple. In the past, I've said I had to wear an emotion out before I would ask for any type of help. But now I know me enough that I can go to what really helps me in that second, in that moment. So thank you. And keep the rafting going.
And also, I just want to say that came up for you tonight when you couldn't get in on the call in the way you wanted to. And and you had the choice of going off totally and letting someone else do the meditation. And whatever you did it, and you flipped in a second, and you started the meditation on the phone, and then figured out how to get in on your computer.
Yeah.
So that I think that's your rafting journey story of tonight. Because they happen all.
Thank you, Constance. Thank you. That was a tough moment. Oh, well, what did you call it? A growth opportunity? Was that the one?
An FGO.
Oh, F, yes. That was a major FGO. Okay. So thank you for providing that FGO. Thank you.
Janine, you're muted. You need to unmute.
Hi. I love that you used all of the metaphors with the river tonight. It's so Jeff. It's so how Jeff saw rivers and how he used it as a teaching tool. You did exactly what he would have done. And we learned so much from him, and so much of it comes from grace, right? And all of the grace that we allow to ourselves. And yeah, I've had a lot of moments where the rapids are really full on white water, like that picture, right? They're just over our heads, and we don't know where the heck we are or what direction we're in, and somehow we find grace. And I think it's about being in the moment, which you definitely were. You were allowing yourself to be in every moment that there was to be experienced in that time, in that, FGO. So, yeah, I mean, I never thought a moment about helping you to take off your helmet and your life vest, and never thought anything about it, but just that that's what friends do. And yeah, That's how love shows up.
Right.
And I think that the whole weekend was just a powerful experience of love for all of us. And definitely want it to be an annual thing. Yeah. Thank you so much. I love this talk. Love it. And happy birthday.
So Dodie, you've got your hand up.
Maureen has her hand up, and then Dodie.
Oh, okay.
Hi, everybody. I also had an FGO tonight because my connection issues were not good. So I was coming in and out of your talk, Constance, and I really wanted to hear it because I was part of the rafting trip and I felt like I was reliving my rafting experience as well. You did such a great job of writing it out and sharing the experience. Rafting, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you know, because 5 is unraftable. Just it really does hit home with what we experience. And Janine just mentioned the word grace, and that's what I wanted to comment on. So this process of kind of learning the ebb and flows, the dark, allowing us to be in the dark place, and I'm almost seeing it as us allowing us to be in the dark place and flowing through it allows others to show their light. And so Janine was given an opportunity to show up for you, and then you will show up for someone else, and it's just all this wonderful one symbiotic beautifulness. And so I was thinking about how, and what Barbara mentioned kind of brought this up for me, was I wasn't taught grace, you know. And I remember when I was in ballet, I would go deer jumping, like, you know how you jump like a deer, breathe.
Breathing, up and breathe.
And so I was taught, you know, I was being shown how to deer jump or whatever it's called. And I remember my mother saying, you know, I could hear you. You were kind of like an elephant, you know, because all the little girls were like clunking around in the ballet. I mean, she didn't mean it negatively, but I was just like, oh, I guess I'm not graceful, or I'm not this, I'm clunky. And so going with the flow of the river, moving in the raft, your body, even you had to allow your body to flow with the river. You couldn't fight it. The river was going to push you that way, and you had to flow with it. And that's, I've had to renegotiate what I think about grace, and you and everybody on this call has helped define that for me in a wonderful way. So thank you.
Thanks, Maureen. Yeah, I had the same thing when I first started, got to the center and I started seeing a practitioner. My practitioner used to say that I had a lot of grace. I had no idea what he was talking about. Not a clue. I thought he was crazy. It took me a long, long time to figure that out. So yeah, when you haven't been raised with that concept, and when you think it has to do with a female definition of beauty that you don't fit, yeah, it's really hard to. It has nothing to do with externals at all. So, thank you, Maureen. So, Dodie.
Oh, Constance, I just wanted to say that sounded like a very exciting trip. And honestly, you were so thorough and so clear with your adventure that I can almost feel the weight of what happened after you got so wet and drug up the hill and fell in the bed or whatever. It just felt like the energy was wiped out of you. But the support you got, Janine and Teresa, helped you to recognize you're not in this alone, and it helped you reestablish your solidness that all is well within you. So thank you for sharing. I enjoyed it. In fact, I thought, why would somebody go river rafting in that? For me, I'd never do it because it just looked too, I don't want to say dangerous, but, and I can't say exciting because it would be too frightening for me. So I congratulate you on it, and I'm glad it was a growth experience for you. I'm complete.
Thanks. Well, the other thing I want to say is that the picture, the photo that was taken of the water coming all the way over the boat, you know, when the two paddles, well, that picture is taken from outside. From inside the boat, it looks very different. You're heading into those waves, and you can see them coming up and going like this. And so they're not, you know, if that's what I had seen, I probably would have been scared, but I wasn't seeing that. I was seeing it from a whole different vantage point of the water coming this way at me. And so, you know, it's all about perspective.
Dorothy? Dorothy, unmute yourself. Yeah, I see you have your hand up.
I want to commend all of you who went on the rafting weekend to support our beloved Reverend Jeff, because Reverend, I don't know if any of you know, but Reverend Rafting Ellis did a fabulous tribute to our Reverend Jeff. And if you have opportunity to go on Reverend Rafting's website, you will hear the water, the rafting water that Reverend Jeff would have been on. You all bring your tissues and all of that, because it is one of the most fabulous tributes that we could give to our beloved Reverend Jeff. Now, I didn't go because I needed probably about 10 life vests for me, because I can't swim, okay? But I need to let you all know that his presence is always with us. I have now put him in the prayer room, and he oversees all of us who walk through that door. He oversees all of those practitioners who have gone before him. But we also have to remember, we have to let go and let him move on to what is his highest and best for him. We love him, we support him, and when you walk through those doors, you feel Reverend Jeff's presence. And I hope for all of us, and Constance, I know for you, working so close with Reverend Jeff, that this time of transition has been very hard for you. But I want you to know that we are open and present to support you in any way that we can. And I want you to know that we all love our Reverend Jeff. He will always be within us, within our hearts and our minds. And I remember days he would call me and say, Dorothy, I need you. And I'd be there for him. But I always wanted him to maintain who he was. And that was a man, a loving man. And we have to look at Reverend Jeff as that. And we have to thank God that we had the opportunity to share this man in our lives. And Constance, I appreciate you and your commitment to our community and to Reverend Jeff and what you have done this evening. But I want you all to know we have to let go and let him move on to what is his next to be. I love you all and I support you all. And I thank God for all of you. And I'm complete.
Thank you, Dorothy. So, and I just want to say before Reverend Jerry speaks that, you know, if Reverend Jeff had been a guy who loved to be in the air, if he'd been a flight guy, if he'd done gliding, I would not have been on any trips that memorialized him, because so, you know, I can go in a boat and I can go on the water, but if you ask me to skydive, I'll be running as fast as I can go the other way. So, you know, we all know our limits, and that's important.
So I know time is running out, and I think you're very, very brave for being on a trip like that, Constance. And I loved your story. I think you should write a book on it because it's quite lovely. And the one thing that really stood out for me is the importance of community and how community shows up. And I know that we get this sense in our spiritual community and with our close friends and the people that we love that love us. So I really appreciated that part of the share. And also right before you mentioned the FGO or growth opportunity, you were talking about momentum and things felt a little like off kilter. And so what came to mind for me is that when I'm in that feeling tone, that I always try to remember that everyone is truly doing the best that they can. And sometimes in that remembering, it softens maybe any feeling that I have, or, you know, insecurity or fear. So I think you did a great job this evening. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for sharing your experience and for bringing Reverend Jeff to us again this evening in such a delightful way. Thank you.
Yes.
So,
Gabriella?
Hi. I just wanted to say that gong was, I just loved it. I loved it. I love the pause. I kind of wish we had it every Wednesday. I loved it. And it reminded me of what you, Constance, were for me when the pandemic first started. You offered the visioning class, and that was a time of total unknown. It was, and you know, for everyone, and certainly personally, and your visioning class was that time in the week where I slowed down in a way that I didn't any other time in the week, and go within. And you had such a caring heart, and I just totally appreciated being led into meditation with your gifts. And so I wanted to thank you for that. And that the pause tonight in your talk, which I totally enjoyed, reminded me of what you were like my gong in that moment. And that, you know, I don't know, was it 2 springs ago, I guess at this point, but maybe it was summertime, but
yeah.
Yes. And I celebrate you. Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Reverend Jerry?
Oh, happy birthday, Constance. I forgot.
Yeah. Reverend Jerry, unmute yourself.
Oh, no, I'm complete. I wanted to agree with Gabriella. I love the gong. Thank you for bringing that back. And I hope that we will continue to use the gong in everything that we do, you know, our spiritual classes and our teachings. And it was really delightful to have that again. Thank you. Thank you for that.
And Gabriella, it's on my list to start doing a monthly visioning, particularly during this time of calling in a new minister, that we really need to be gathering together to vision for what's next. So as soon as Reverend Jerry prods me a little bit more, I'll set a date and we'll do it.
Yes, yes.
I don't see any other hands up at this time. Constance and Paul.
Great. So let's thank Constance, everybody. Thank you, Constance. Show her some love for bringing. Yes, thank you so much.
Yay!
Yay, yay, yay.
But nothing personal, y'all, but unless they got a coffee pot and a blow dryer there at that campground of yours, I ain't going. Mm-mm. Now, if Reverend Jeff shopped at the mall regularly, I would hold an annual shop at the mall with Paul, but he didn't. So I'll do it anyways, right? It wasn't his thing.
Love it, Paul. That's cute. That's sweet.
Anyways, thank you so much.
Well,
Constance.
Paul, I will say this, that this may be too TMI for some of you, but the only way I could do it was by bringing a loggable loo. So
Yes. I don't share that. Period. That's for another Wednesday night. We'll talk about a power of presence with Christopher next Wednesday night, and I'll tell you about what my living condition requirements are with my spouse of 35 years. But we'll talk about that next week. That's a little teaser for the power of the presence next week. I've got some announcements for you. We got some great things happening. On Sunday, September 26th, Reverend Jerry's here tonight. She'll be in the pulpit on Sunday and speaking on And Then I Rise. So join us physically and in person in the sanctuary, or watch her and the service live on live stream or YouTube. Service starts at 10:30 on Sunday. Please know that if you'll be joining us on Sunday in person, everyone is required to wear a mask inside all of our buildings, and we will be practicing social distancing. As I said earlier, next Wednesday is the fifth Wednesday. If it's fifth Wednesday, it's Christopher Brown is in the seat, and he'll be leading our Wednesday night service with a talk on practicing the power of presence. Christopher is a divine practitioner, and he also helps me on all the facility stuff. He always shows up in the physical. So I'm looking forward to practicing the power of presence with him next Wednesday night. The meditation is at 6:30 and the service is at 7. And our Wednesday services are continuing on Zoom. They will stay on Zoom at least through the end of the year. Diversity Circle is at a special time this month with special presenters. This is very important for you to note. Constance has done a real good job about making sure that this is in the announcements. Now, it is Friday, September 24th, the normal last Friday of the month, but the time period starts at 4 and goes to 5:30 because our speakers are on the East Coast. So again, Diversity Circle is coming up this Friday. It's from 4 p.m. to 5:30. Cousins Betty Kilby Baldwin and Phoebe Kilby will be presenting on their connection through slavery and the reconciliation that took place. Go to our events page on the website for details on the presentation and on how you can order their book called Cousins. Join the fun Friday, September 24th and Saturday, September 25th for the Courtyard Church Bazaar, and it's a rummage sale. This is our way of clearing off the social hall stage of things we've collected since the last sale. We are not accepting any new donations, but there is an abundance of great items for sale. So mark your calendars. Please tell your friends, tell your family. No, bring your friends, bring your family.
Please come.
Nothing over $10. Everything is mostly $1. We have lots of great stuff. I know you can walk out with something. It's a fundraiser for facility so we can put a new carpet upstairs. So that would be really great. If you're interested in volunteering to help set up or support the sale, we'll be doing that tomorrow at 10 o'clock. You can call me at 510-303-2273. If somebody would throw that in the chat for me, that would be great. Again, that's 510-303-2273. It's nonprofit partner application time for 2022. This program has been a major success and has forged many bonds between Oakland Center and nonprofit organizations. Please nominate your favorite nonprofit by October 1st. The application is on the website and also in the Village News. Guess what? There's a new membership class coming. If you want to become a member of the Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, you'll need to take this class, and it's taking place on Tuesday, October 12th at 6:30 by Zoom. It's a 2-hour class. It's an orientation style Zoom class. To vote on the new minister or co-ministers, this is very important. You must be a formal member of the church. And the way you become a formal member of the church is going to this new member class. If you're not sure of your membership status, please contact zodemuro@gmail.com. Pre-registration is required for the class, which will take place on Zoom. So check the events page to register. That's zodemuro@gmail.com. Remember, if you're a member in good standing and you want to help bring in our new minister or co-ministers, your application to be a part of the Minister Search Committee is due by Saturday, September 25th. The application is on the homepage of the website. Everything that we do here is at www.oaklandcsl.org. Be sure to check our events page and see what's going on. With that in mind, I'd like to do a very quick offering. As I pass the bowl from person to person digitally to collect your offering, let's say, joyously I give with an attitude of abundance, knowing that as I give, I do receive. So I hold that bowl full and full and full of all of your contributions, your time, your treasure, your talent, the things that make this center work and keep it open for all of us. And I hold that bowl and I bless it. And I'm thankful to God and to you and the Spirit for making us so abundant, and knowing that as we give, we're receiving, but also it's going outside of these gates and benefiting the community and the world around us. Amen. Now, how can you do that in the physical? Well, we have about 4 public ways on the website, and I've discovered a 5th way in the last couple of weeks. First, you can donate with your credit card on the website by pressing that donate button, or you can write a check and send it to the Oakland Center, and the address is there. If you're young and hip, which I am not, it took me forever to learn the credit card version, but I like it now. Maybe someday I'll text it. 510-327-3431 that like to donate through texting. It'll prompt you through the process. Also, Zelle, another online way of making donations. And you can do that to giving@oaklandcsl.org. The 5th way is coming to the center on Sunday and dropping it in the offering basket on the way out the door at the end of the service. So there's 5 great ways that you can financially contribute to the center. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As we end this program tonight, and there's some big thank yous to go out there. First, Constance, thank you for all that you do to support us. Dorothy's right on when she mentions all the stuff that you do around here for us, and we're so grateful for taking care of us. I also want to thank our Zoom team behind the scenes, Peggy and Dr. Barbara. Reverend Sally sat in the spotlighting seat tonight and also did our opening prayer. So you guys are the best. Thank you for making us look good. We had a fantastic bifunctional audio meditation today by the terrific Bonnie Gonzalez. Bonnie, you are really teaching us how to go to river rafting Zoom. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
My pleasure.
I also want to thank Reverend Jerry for being here. She's been here consistently since she stepped up to be our, I'll call her our acting senior minister, because she's acting like one And I love it. So thank you, Reverend Jerry, for supporting us on Wednesday nights, especially me. I know I need a lot of support. It just takes an awful lot to hold this head on these shoulders. So thank you so much for helping me out. And the thing that supports us more than anything is not only our ministry of prayer, but the way we open and close our programs in and around prayer. So with that, Reverend Sally, oh no, Constance has closed. Reverend Sally opened us, and Constance, you're going to close us in prayer tonight. And that will be the end of our program. So Constance, can you close us in prayer tonight?
Yes, what a beautiful, beautiful night this has been. And I really appreciate everyone who's been here and everyone who's shared, everyone who's thought about sharing. Because what I know is that God is all there is. Those 5 simple words contain so much. They are so pregnant with possibility. They are so pregnant with love. They are so pregnant with wisdom. God is all there is. So just breathe that in. That God is the white water. God is that hill that I had to climb. God is a tent that I tripped over. God is all of that and so much more. It is all that. And every single one of those things, some of them which seemed like they were not that much fun at the time, were actually gifts. Because what I know is that God is an energy that continues to continually give. It gives of itself every single second, every single moment, to become more of itself. And in doing that, each one of us, because we are God in form, become more of ourselves. And so I'm just so very grateful for this time we've had together. I am so grateful for these Wednesday evenings. I am so grateful for Paul, who so seamlessly and with humor keeps us moving in the right direction on Wednesday night. I'm so grateful for all of the tech team who shows up every Wednesday night to make this a good, a wonderful, loving service. To Reverend Jerry, who shows up every Wednesday night. To Sherry, who shows up every Wednesday night. To Dr. Judith, who shows up every Wednesday night. To everyone who shows up, because we wouldn't have it without you. And so as we leave, as we make our journeys home by just clicking the end call button, I just know that this time has been blessed and very blessed. And so please join me in saying, and so it is.